Okay, welcome back to the deep dive. We sift through complex sources so you don't have to, pulling out what really matters.
That's right.
And today, we're tackling a big one, the South African Post Office SOC Ltd Act, Act 22 of 2011, specifically.
Yeah, it's the legal framework for a really key national institution. Our job today is to unpack it, look at the legal side, the rules for it being a state-owned company or SOC Ltd.
And crucially, there's this massive update hanging in the wings, isn't there?
Exactly. Act 19 of 2024. It amends the 2011 Act pretty heavily, but here's the catch. It hasn't actually commenced yet. It's incorporated, but not switched on.
So we're looking at the current law and this potential future law almost side by side. It sounds like a major shift is planned.
It really is. You've got the traditional post office mission delivering mail, universal service bumping right up against this new vision of it being a digital hub, a logistics player.
Right, a state-owned company being pushed into competitive markets. That tension, that's what we need to explore.
Precisely. How do you balance being a public service for everyone, affordably, with potentially becoming, well, a commercial operation in e-commerce and digital identity? It's baked right into the legislation now.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. Section 2 of the 2011 Act. What's the absolute core mission, the non-negotiable part?
Well, the foundation is all about public service. The Act exists first to make sure the post office itself continues to exist and is governed properly.
Okay.
But its main job, its primary object, is providing postal services that are universal, accessible, reliable, and importantly, affordable.
Universal meaning everywhere.
Pretty much. And it also explicitly mentions promoting economic growth and capacity building, especially for historically disadvantaged groups, through this service.
And Section 3 nails down its status, right? It continues as an SOC Ltd, a public company, even though older laws were repealed.
Correct. And that status as an SOC Ltd directly links to state control.
Which brings us to the minister. Currently, that's the Minister of Communications and Digital Technologies.
Yes. The Act says the minister exercises all the powers and duties of the state as the shareholder. And here's a really interesting legal point.
Go on.
The minister can actually add to or change the post office's memorandum of incorporation, its MOI, even if it goes against some general rules in the Companies Act.
Whoa, hold on. A minister changing the founding documents of a public company, doesn't that kind of undermine its independence, especially if it's meant to operate commercially?
But there's a crucial check built in. It's a really important safeguard, legally speaking.
Okay, what is it?
Any change the minister makes cannot conflict with this act, the Post Office Act itself. And critically, it must give effect to that main object, providing postal services, promoting universal access, and keeping it affordable.
I see. So the minister can shape the structure, but always in service of that core social mandate. It's not a blank check.
Exactly. The power is broad, but it's directed towards that specific public good outcome.
Okay. Before we leap into the big future changes, let's pin down the current duties. Section 4. What defines that social mandate in practice right now?
It's focused on making the service work for people. Things like ensuring it's affordable, actually responding to what consumers need, trying to be innovative.
Standard stuff for a service provider?
Yes, but with a legal mandate. And crucially, achieving universal access. The Act specifically calls out providing an effective service in rural areas and small towns. That's often the expensive part.
Right.
Plus, maintaining the whole system collection, sorting, delivery nationwide, and also taking the needs of disabled persons into account. It's quite comprehensive.
It really paints a picture of a service embedded in the community. And speaking of the maybe less commercial aspects, before we get to the heavy-duty economics, there's that slightly quirky detail in the future provisions, the Stamp Advisory Committee.
Yes. See the uncommenced Section 14A. It actually requires the minister to set up this committee.
What for? Just stamps.
Pretty much. Up to 9 members advising the board specifically on philatelic strategy. That's, stamp design, what themes to use, how to sell them.
Seriously?
Yes. The Act says the themes must reflect the broad spectrum of South African culture, history, environment, and development. The deliberate nod to the post office's cultural role, even as it gears up to be this digital and logistics powerhouse.
Fascinating. Okay, cultural footprint noted. Let's make that pivot now. The 2011 Act locks down the social service, but this 2024 uncommenced mandate, it seems to be all about competing, maybe even surviving commercially.
That's the heart of the transformation, yes.
So Section 2 and the expanded Section 4 and those new amendments, What do they say the post office has to become?
This is where it gets radical.
Yeah.
The mandate expands massively. It explicitly pushes the post office into the competitive market,
How so?
providing logistics and e-commerce services. Not just delivering online shopping, but acting as a logistics partner, including for SMMEs, small businesses, and even informal traders.
So directly competing with private courier companies then.
Squarely. It puts them right in that ring.
And it's not just physical stuff, packages and boxes. The digital side is huge too.
Huge. The Act mandates it to become a digital hub for businesses and communities. And this is where it gets technically quite complex.
Okay.
It's mandated to serve as a designated authentication authority and a national trust center.
Right. For listeners, maybe those who aren't deep into digital policy, what does being a designated authentication authority or trust center actually mean in simple terms? What would it do?
Think of it like this. The post office would become the official, legally backed keeper of secure digital identities. It provides the layer of trust needed for secure online transactions, especially with the government.
So, like a digital ID card system run by the post office.
In a way, yes. It's foundational for secure e-government services, online voting maybe down the line, high-security financial transactions. It basically turns the post office into a central utility for the digital economy and the digital state.
That sounds incredibly significant and carries massive responsibility, cybersecurity, data protection.
Absolutely massive. Huge liabilities, yes, but also potentially enormous influence over how digital services roll out.
So they're using the post office on the corner, potentially, to offer government services, maybe help you verify your digital ID, and also handle your online shopping deliveries.
That seems to be the vision, leveraging that existing physical footprint.
But transforming all those branches, training staff, building the tech infrastructure, that sounds incredibly expensive. How on earth is this massive expansion supposed to be funded?
Well, the updated Section 7, the part about financial support, tackles that directly. It acknowledges the cost.
How? Does it just say the government will pay?
It's more specific. It confirms Parliament may provide funding, but it carves out two specific justifications for that funding.
Which are?
Funding to ensure the Universal Postal Service continues, that's the traditional bit, and funding for any other social mandate services that the minister determines.
So things like being a digital hub or providing government services could fall under social mandate services?
Potentially, yes. It creates a legal pathway for the government to subsidize the non-commercial developmental parts of this new expanded role, including things like the digital identity functions. It separates it, notionally at least, from the purely commercial logistics side.
That seems vital. It provides a safety net, so the pressure to make money in logistics doesn't completely kill off the need to serve remote areas or offer these potentially costly digital services.
It's designed to manage that tension, yes.
Okay, that leads us neatly into governance and accountability. If they're handling state funds, critical infrastructure, sensitive digital data, the oversight needs to be rock solid.
And the Act tries to make it so. The board is central. It manages the post office's affairs.
How's it structured?
Under the new amendments, it's between 5 and 9 non-executive members, plus 3 executives, the CEO, CFO, and COO. The minister picks the chairperson from the non-executives.
And getting onto that board isn't easy, right?
Yeah.
Section 10 has some pretty strict disqualifications.
Extremely strict. You're out if you're an unrehabilitated insolvent, if you've been convicted of theft, fraud, dishonesty, forgery, basically anything casting doubt on your integrity.
Or removed from an office of trust for misconduct.
Correct. It sets a high bar, trying to filter for ethical leadership from the very start.
Let's talk about Section 13, the fiduciary duties. This sounds like the core mechanism against corruption or mismanagement when someone is on the board.
It is absolutely central. It demands the highest standard, utmost good faith, honesty, and integrity. But it's the conflict of interest part that's particularly stringent.
How so?
It states very clearly, a board member, or their close family or a business partner, cannot offer goods or services to the post office or do any business with it if they have a direct or indirect interest.
Can you give an example, like...
Sure. Say a board member's spouse owns a printing company. That company is effectively barred from bidding on post office printing contracts, even if it's the best price. The potential conflict overrides it.
And ignoring that.
It's a serious offense under the Act, with significant penalties, which we'll get to. The message is clear. No self-dealing.
Okay, but even with strict rules, things can go wrong, especially with state-owned companies facing financial pressures. What happens if the board messes up? Does the minister have power to intervene?
Yes. Section 25 gives the minister pretty significant clout if the post office is in financial trouble or if it's being mismanaged.
Who decides that?
Well, the Act implies the minister makes that determination, likely based on reports, audits, performance. If that happens, the minister can issue a directive telling the board what specific actions to take.
And if the board ignores the directive?
Then the minister, after giving the board a chance to respond to hearing, can actually replace the entire board.
The whole board, wow.
Or appoint an administrator to take over the functions of the board and management. And even beyond specific directives, the minister can dissolve the board if they lose confidence in its ability to perform, again, subject to a hearing.
That's a lot of power. Does that level of potential intervention maybe stifle the kind of bold commercial risk-taking they'll need to succeed in e-commerce and logistics? Are executives always looking over their shoulder?
That's the classic tension in any SOC, isn't it? You want commercial dynamism, but you also need public accountability and protection against failure or corruption. The law definitely prioritizes the oversight.
So the ministerial power acts as a strong deterrent, but might also make the leadership more cautious.
It inevitably does. It imposes a layer of political accountability alongside market pressures.
Okay, let's widen the lens a bit. How does this Post Office Act fit within the bigger legal picture in South Africa, other major laws?
Well, crucially, it's subject to the Public Finance Management Act, the PFMA. That imposes strict financial discipline.
Right.
They have to submit annual budgets, corporate plans, all according to PFMA rules. And a very important point on finance. Section 7 says the post office and its subsidiaries cannot borrow money without prior written approval from the minister.
Just the minister?
The minister, after consulting with the Minister of Finance. So it's a double lock on taking on debt. Centralized control.
And what about the Companies Act? Does that just apply like for any other company?
Mostly, yes. But the Act allows the minister to ask for specific provisions of the Companies Act to be declared inapplicable if it would make the post office more efficient and doesn't reduce accountability or harm creditors or employees. It allows some tailoring.
Interesting. Okay. Liability. With this move into complex digital services, what happens if something goes wrong? Say, a data breach related to the trust center role. Can people sue the post office easily?
Section 26 provides a significant limitation on liability. The basic position is that the post office and its staff are not liable for damage or loss caused by doing their job or failing to do it.
Not liable at all. That sounds too broad.
Here's the crucial unless. They're liable if the act or failure was unlawful, grossly negligent, or done in bad faith.
So simple mistakes are generally covered, but deliberate wrongdoing or really reckless behavior isn't.
Exactly. Your letter arriving a day late, probably no liability. An employee intentionally selling customer data or management completely ignoring basic, legally required cybersecurity measures leading to a breach. That likely crosses the line into gross negligence or bad faith.
Got it. And the Act backs this up with penalties to show it means business.
Yes. Section 30 lays out offenses and penalties. It's not just administrative slaps on the wrist.
Like what?
Failing to give info for an investigation, not complying with an administrator's directive, even using the words post office or the logo without permission. These are offenses.
And the punishment?
For general offenses, it's a fine or potentially imprisonment up to 5 years. For repeat offenders, that can go up to 10 years.
Serious stuff.
And specifically for board members who breach those strict disclosure or conflict of interest rules we talked about, a fine or imprisonment up to 5 years. The law has teeth designed to enforce that integrity.
Okay, let's try and wrap our heads around this. We've walked through an act that does two seemingly quite different things.
Yes, it's got this dual personality now.
On one hand, it locks down the traditional post office role, the universal affordable mail service. Very detailed duties, clear social mandate.
Absolutely. Protecting that core public service function.
But then, layered on top, especially with the uncommenced 2024 parts, is this incredibly ambitious push into new competitive territory. Logistics, e-commerce, becoming a fundamental piece of the national digital infrastructure.
It's a legislative attempt at a complete transformation, but under very tight control. You see, the ironclad governance rules the fiduciary duties, the ministerial intervention powers, designed to prevent the problems often seen in SOCs.
Right, maximum control.
But at the same time, it's legally forcing the post office to evolve way beyond just mail. It has to become this digital player, this logistics competitor, this government service hub.
Which sets up a really profound challenge for its future, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Think about it. The original mandate, Still there, emphasizes universal access, affordability, things Parliament can directly fund as social mandate services,
Hmm.
keeping that rural post office open even if it loses money. But the new mandate requires success in cutthroat markets like logistics and e-commerce. That demands efficiency, agility, probably cost-cutting, maybe even closing unprofitable branches, things needed for financial sustainability.
So how does the board or future leadership possibly square that circle? How do you aggressively compete commercially while still fulfilling a government-funded social mandate that might require you to be uncommercial in certain areas?
That is the fundamental tension embedded in this legislation, balancing commercial viability against the enduring and potentially expanded social obligations. That's the tightrope the post office now has to walk.
And how that balance plays out in practice, especially if and when those 2024 amendments are fully switched on. Well, that leaves a big question mark, doesn't it?
It certainly does. A crucial question for you to consider.